All right, what's up, YouTube? So for today's video, I'm actually going to get into how I started investing in real estate at 18 years of age. The main reason I wanted to do this video is because I feel like if I could sum up this information in a smaller, short-term video rather than like having to read and do all of the research I had to do at that age to get to this point, um, it'll definitely help someone. So let's get into it. So pretty much breaking down everything, I'm gonna get my iPad out here and I'm gonna start writing down how I did it and the things that I did to get to this point. And there's obviously like a voiceover over this video, so I'm just gonna be following the video itself. But there's technically a couple of ways of investing in real estate, and so the first way is traditional investing. The second way is flipping. The third way is BRRRR. And then the fourth one's commercial and multifamily. And then with the traditional investing, you can actually split it into short-term and long-term rentals as well. I'm honestly a huge fan of long-term investing and long-term rentals, mainly just because I didn't start off with a lot of money, number one. So like this video is going to be focusing on it. In another video, I'll go over like some of the flips I've done, things like that, and some like the business aspect, which is more active investing. I'm a huge fan of like passive investing, and that's what real estate means to me. So essentially, like what you do is like when you start off with traditional, I didn't really have a lot of money at 18 years old. Like I didn't have somebody funding it, I didn't have outside investors, and I wasn't like crazy rich either to start off with. And that's why I like the traditional investing with long-term rentals. So essentially, there's two ways of doing it. Number one, you can buy smaller properties and rent them out, which is what I'm a huge fan of. So like this would be like condos, smaller condominiums. And then the second way is buying family homes with 2 to 3 doors. And what I mean by that is like, for example, if you have a single family house, there's the upstairs, and then you have a suited basement, you can rent out the bottom as well. So you have the basement revenue coming in, and you have revenue upstairs. If there's a carriage suite that you can build on a property, then you can get to 3 doors. Or a lot of the times, people do like the main floor, they'll rent out a garage separately, especially if it's a detached garage, or they'll like rent out the basement, right? So you have two or three different incomes coming in. And essentially, what that does is just a hedge for making sure that you don't have to take on the whole responsibility of the property if a payment ever goes missed. So pretty much getting into the first scenario, I focused on buying smaller properties because I had less money to put down. Again, I was 18 years old. I didn't have a crazy high paying job. I didn't have a lot of money that my parents or somebody else was giving me. So essentially what you do, or what I did, is you'd buy a condo for around the 150 to $200,000 mark. And there's a lot of these actually. Right now, there might not be as many, but there usually is a pretty big inventory of these that you can find in the Calgary area. That's where I'm at. So you got to make sure to look at up and coming areas. So like a lot of the times, these are new construction condos. So an example of this would be like one of my properties that I got for around $200,000. These are very rough numbers that I want to go over this video, but it was really close to this, and the rents are exactly what I'm getting as well. So this is actually a very specific example, including like how much my mortgage payment is on this place. So I got a 200K condo, which is a 200 or two bed, two bath. It's around 600 to 700 square feet. The rent that I'm receiving for this condo is $1,750. I did put 20% down. So again, this is the big part where like pause this video if you do not have like the ability to put 20% down on a $200,000 property, which is $40,000. I think the rest of this video is absolutely fucking useless for you. Don't even bother watching it. I don't want to waste your time. I don't even think you should give a shit about investing in real estate at that point. And the main reason I say this is because if you're not able to save money, one, getting wealthy is going to be extremely difficult. I don't care what anybody says. Like, I'm not as conservative and extreme as like Dave Ramsey and those guys, but I am at the point of understanding that like there is a certain skill set that you need to become wealthy, and at that point you need to invest into skills. If you don't have like $40,000-$50,000 saved up, screw this video, read a book, learn skills that you can actually increase your income with, and then learn how to live under your means. I think that's extremely important, especially when you're young. Keep in mind, I was 18 years old when I was doing this. You're living at home, you don't have a lot of expenses. I didn't have a mortgage payment to pay or any of that stuff. So essentially what I did is I put $40,000 down on a $200,000 condo. I was getting $1,750 in rent. The mortgage payment was $905 at 3.94% with one of the major banks in Canada. So there's five big banks in Canada that you go through. Right now, you can even get interest rates as low as 3.79% that I've seen with some. And then obviously there's condo fees that go with the condo. This is like for the property maintenance, things like that. And the reason I actually really like condos as well on a side note is because a lot of the times with single family homes in comparison to them, especially when you're starting out, with single family homes, if you have a tenant who's delinquent or if they're the type of tenant who damages your house, a lot of the times you don't find out until it's too late. And what I mean by that is like when they're delinquent on rent, you kick them out and then you realize they trash your place. In a condo, it's so hard to do that because there's a condo board and there's a management company. So like whenever your tenants are doing something stupid, they're throwing parties or they're fighting or whatever's going on, a lot of these tenants snitch and you sort of find out right away when there's something wrong with their property. So it actually saves your butt because you don't have to deal with all of these like costs and all these damages that you didn't anticipate like you could with a single family home, which is why I also think like starting off with condos at 18-year-old me was like a blessing for me because you kind of get to understand the general gist of it without being so over leveraged that you don't screw your whole life up. So the condo fees are $300. The property tax is $165 a month, and insurance is $39. So total monthly cost to own the place was $1,409, and then I did have that $40,000 down payment, right? So the rent I was getting was again $1,750 minus the $1,409 that I was spending in the costs, which means that I have a monthly net income on that property of $341 times the 12 months. It's $4,092. So now again, I just want to reiterate this. This isn't life changing money because I'm not trying to teach you how to just be rich. I'm trying to teach you how to be wealthy. And I think there's a big, big, big difference in that. You have to understand that wealth is a little bit slower to generate, but wealth stays. And being rich sometimes really doesn't. I've seen people come and go so many times. And also, I've seen with like people who take real estate investing in this like short-term rental market, or if they try to do like they try to really leverage it, or they take outside investors. Your stress is through the roof, man. Like honestly, the last thing you want is to have to answer to multiple people while you might be getting screwed over by other people, right? Like I don't know how people deal with the stress, and I personally don't want to deal with that either, right? So I don't take any outside investors' money. I don't fund any deals where like I have people who are pitching in. And the big reason is because again, I'm building personal wealth, and I want to do it in a way where I'm not over leveraged, and it's not a way where I can ruin my life. And I don't want another full-time active job either, right? Like this is a great way to passively do this on the side and build wealth and make sure that you have a retirement, and make sure that you're actually wealthy when you get older rather than doing all of this stuff where it's like you're just working a job. Like I don't want another job. And I think that's what happens with everybody I know in like short-term rentals. They start doing like Airbnb and stuff, and then they're managing this place like a full-time job and they're working 10, 20 hours a week. Like, why would I want to do that? It doesn't even make any sense, right? Especially when I'm investing that much money. So again, I just want to reiterate here, this doesn't look like life-changing money, and to be honest, it's not. It's $4,000 a month extra. Maybe that's like 1 month of your pay. Again, I do want to say that this is for people who actually have a full-time job and have careers going, or for people who want to do this on the side and understand that they need patience and they're building wealth, and it's not just about getting rich. Um, and again, like a huge bonus of this is it's actually super easy to get into it. It's not very hard to get approved for a $160,000 mortgage when you put 40 grand down, right? All you need to do is you have to save up the 40 grand. You do have to have income to get approved for that mortgage though. So roughly, like the reason I really like this is like at this point, honestly, like this month specifically, this is March 2026. I've received rent for both of my units. I worked less than like 8 minutes, literally cumulatively for all of my units. I worked 8 minutes. All I did was like, hey, rent's due. You want to send it? And I got the e-transfer and I deposited it into my account. And that's all the work I've had to do for these units. So again, I'm a huge fan of long-term rentals over short-term rentals. And I think another benefit of long-term rentals is you actually build a great human connection. And I think that's just like a philosophy I believe in wholeheartedly for everything in life. I think the internet, I think social media and everything's made humans feel like they're disposable when it's not. I think building a connection, having a relationships is probably the best thing that you can do. And the earlier you learn this in life, the better everlasting relationships you have, and the more prominent it is. Because even if you're in like an e-commerce business or you're in a business where people are on the other side of the internet, I think it's still a human clicking the buttons. It's still humans buying your services. It's still humans buying your products. So just build human connections, man. I think it's so important. So essentially, we want to be wealthy, not rich. And so all you need to start is like for this is like $40,000 and some courage. I added a little smiley face there. You know, you're gonna have to take a risk if you do want to get wealthy. Obviously, not like nothing doesn't come without a risk. So yeah. Now, while I understand there's a little caveat here, it is a good idea to technically not pay off your mortgage because for taxation purposes, you can write off the interest. So you can minus that from the income you have and it actually helps you out. However, the way I like to do it, especially in wealth building, is I like to make sure that I pay off all my debt on everything, period. Like I don't have any car loans. I don't really finance anything. And even like on houses and mortgages, I would want to pay off everything as fast as possible so I can be free. I think the whole point of wealth is to be free, right? Like the freedom of location, the freedom of choice, the freedom to do whatever you want with your time. And I think that's very important because time is the only thing that you spend that you actually don't know how much you have of it. So again, you're collecting $1,750 a month, and the only fixed expenses are property tax and essentially insurance, which is why you have freedom. And another big like proponent of this is like understanding that if any of these units go empty, because it's actually such a small investment, an easy way to start with it. Hopefully, if you're living under your means, you do have the couple of $100 or like the early 1,000 to like $1,300 a month to make sure that you can afford it if the place is vacant. And again, you can cut that out of your profit for taxation purposes. It might help you out. But again, I'm not a CPA, I'm not an accountant, I'm not going to get into that. It depends on where you're living in Canada, what you do, how much money you make, and all those other things that I can't really comment on. So the best part about this is, again, it's repeatable over and over. As long as you have income that support these smaller mortgages and you have the down payments ready, right? And that's why I really like this, because a lot of the times, especially when you're buying like a suited house in Calgary, Alberta right now, you're not finding stuff that's under 500K, at least right now. I'm sure previously, or you have to do like value add and you have to build the basement out, or you need to build a garage, and then you're renting the garage out and you're doing all this extra work. Whereas with these, like you can get these straight from the builder. And that's what I've done actually. So a bunch of the units that I have, I got them straight from the builder. I got a great deal on it, and I was pretty much the first guy in there. I didn't have to deal with a lot of issues, right? So again, worst case, if a unit is empty, you're able to pretty much hold on to the cost, and it's not a huge financial burden. So with inflation over time, rents also go up. Obviously, that works in our favor. The good thing about condos are they don't really go up or down much. They kind of just maintain their value where they're at. So just for like an easy rundown of numbers again, so $1,750 times 12 equals $21,000. And that will be like your gross profit, obviously, once the condo is paid off. And then you're looking at obviously your costs of insurance, and you're looking at your property tax, which again was like what, $39 a month and 100 and some bucks. So it's like $200 a month to hold this once the unit is actually paid off. So I think that's really, really, really important. So I am gonna write down all of the numbers that you need for the math below. And again, if you choose to reinvest the profit, now this is where like I make a huge differentiation on it, because obviously $4,000 shouldn't be a life changing amount for you in the span of 1 year. What I personally do and what I recommend everybody does is, and this is like the secret, and I feel like it's common sense, but a lot of people don't know this. I would take the profit and I would reinvest it back into the property. You can pay down the principal of the property every single year. There's a certain amount that they allow you. So like, let's say for this specific example, you have a $200,000 property, you put $40,000 down, you have a $160,000 mortgage on a 30-year amortization, right? You want to keep the amortization as long as possible, because what that does is it makes sure that your payment is as low as possible. So if you do have months where the unit is empty, you can actually afford to pay that, and you're not just being absolutely killed on it. And again, it is about minimizing your stress. Like again, you want to get rich, you want to do it in a safe way. I think this is one of the safest ways to do it. And like I started when I was 18, so like I can't even explain how little stress I have, even when the units have been vacant. And honestly, it's been such short amounts. Like I think in a decade, I've maybe had like 3, 4 months in 10 years of the specific unit being empty, and that's really it. They're super easy to rent out. There's always people who need a place to live, and again, you're not being like a crazy asshole or a slumlord and jacking up the prices for rent. You're just keeping them at what the market rent is, right? So you have a 30-year amortization at 3.94%. If you choose to reinvest the profit, which is $4,092 extra a year that you have, that was the 341 times 12, the loan will be paid off quicker, right? So instead of the 30-year amortization, this property should be paid off in 17 years. And again, these numbers don't include inflation. On a long enough time horizon, the rents go up, right? And again, yes, mortgage interest rates can change. You're going to do your renewal, blah, blah. It all evens out, okay? Like, you can do the math. It's not going to be a huge difference. So, if you choose to reinvest the profit, again, what I was saying was, so you're going to be able to pay off this property in 17 years instead of 30 years. If you start at the age of 18 or, I don't know, like 20, you're going to be done paying this place off by the time you're 35 to 37 years old. Now, again, I'm not saying this is a get rich quick scheme. It's not overnight. You're not going to make $10,000 a month because you're Airbnbing it. But again, you're also only spending 1 or so hours a month. You're not spending a crazy amount of hours managing these places. It's actually very easy once you get long-term tenants in there. And then on top of that, it kind of just like kind of polices itself, because again, whenever they're messing around or doing something, like it's actually so well managed, because like the condo board and the management company snitches on everything. Seriously, if they put something on their deck like a bike and they shouldn't have bikes up there, they're gonna snitch. You have Christmas lights on the railing, they snitch. Like literally every single time something happens, I found out within the week, and it's never like, oh, I didn't even know that they just trashed the place, or I didn't know he was like an alcoholic, or this or that, or whatever else was going on, right? Like you find out instantly, and that's really the beauty of it, and I love that about it. And then, so best of all, now at this point, like let's say if you started at 18, or if you're 20 years old, whatever, you have a unit paid off at 35 to 37 years old, right? So now you also make, once these units are paid off, you're making $21,000 passively a year, minus property tax and your insurance. And obviously repairs, yes, repairs do come off, but they are pretty small. Like I've had repairs for vents, the dryer washing machine needed to have like a part replaced or something like that. It's nothing major. I haven't had any major repairs come up. Again, I've been doing this since I was 18. I'm 28 years old now. Just want to say that. So pretty much like looking at this long term, the reason that I like it is because of how repeatable it is, because we're assuming that you're also working or building your career or your job alongside while doing this, right? So let's look at it long term. If you got your first unit at 18, you'd have it paid off by the time you're 35. Let's say if you do this every 3 to 4 years, which is very doable, right? Like if you're making around 80 to 100K and you're saving 20K a year, or if you're saving even 15K a year, you can literally do this every 3 years, as long as you have the income to support it. Which again is awesome. And you're also not using your 5% CMHC. So like in Canada, for your first mortgage, you're allowed to get 5% down payment as your CMHC. And usually the amortization on that is 25%. I personally would recommend saving that for your personal house. I wouldn't recommend wasting that on an investment. I know a lot of other people do recommend wasting on investment. To me, don't do it. Save that for like the house that you live in, right? So again, like I said, you're making 21,000 passively a year minus the property tax and insurance, and obviously the repairs, which not a lot come up. Worst case scenario, I think it's also a really good idea that at a certain point when your condo fees start going up, and this is something I've actually learned pretty recently. When condo fees start going up a lot, and they're budgeting for bigger things on the building, and the building is actually aging and getting older, you can sell that unit and kind of get into another unit around the same price in the same area. So I recommend that. And again, so like the reason that I recommend this is because like at the long term, I kind of had that last screenshot that popped up there. If you have one unit at 18, it's paid off by 35. If you do another unit at 22 years old, you can pay that off by 39. If you have a unit at 25, you can pay that off by 42. So essentially, you can say if rents average around $1,800 for both of these 2-bed, 2-bath. So we're aiming for something that has the most amount of bedrooms for the least price that we can find. You're looking at roughly $5,400 in passive income, which essentially replaces your income. So the medium income for unattached individuals and families in Canada for 2023 is around $68,700. If you're getting $5,400 from these 3 units by the time they're all paid off, you're 42 years old, you're looking at around $64,800. So again, inflation, these numbers might change, and yeah, it's a couple of years from now, and maybe 65 grand doesn't mean anything. But what it does is it does give you a lot of freedom. It does give you a lot of extra passive income to do whatever you want with. So like this is how I got started. Again, rents do keep up with the economy, and I do think it's a good idea to do it this way. If you have more money, I would recommend getting into multifamily or commercial real estate, which I can kind of break down in another video. I'm not really a huge fan because I didn't grow up with money like that to get into it. So like, I don't know where I would come up with the money. Honestly, I always watch these videos on YouTube where people are like, yeah, and then I bought this building. I had 40 units. Yeah, like, dude, I didn't have millions of dollars. Forget about millions. I didn't even have like hundreds of thousands of dollars. So like, I don't know how I'd even get started in that unless if I'm taking outside investors, and then you have to deal with all of that, or you have like these like third-party lending companies and you're paying like exorbitant amounts of interest. So like I would shy away from that. This is how I do it in a way where it's mine and all the stress is mine, but again, all the wealth is mine. It does take a longer time to build it, but again, I'd rather have a guaranteed amount of something in 20, 30 years from now than have no guarantee about something short-term. So yeah, peace out, guys. That's pretty much everything I have to say on this topic. Hopefully this helps somebody out. Just take the leap of faith and try it at least for your first unit. Worst case scenario, dude, you can always sell it. Most condos don't really crash and burn. Most condos don't also have a lot of appreciation over the years. So it's a fairly safe investment, at least in Canada. So thanks for watching. Thank you.